Welcome back. My name is Brian Higgins. I'm KPMG's US consulting leader for our manufacturing sector. I'm really excited to continue the conversation today, all about consumer privacy and automotive manufacturers. I'm also back with my two colleagues and leaders from our cybersecurity practice, Orson Lucas and Quen. And I think we've had some really good grounding and some really fresh insights from our white paper. And I want to leverage or springboard off of that and talk a little bit more about the strategic importance and some of the global perspectives and the consumer empowerment themes that that were highlighted in the white paper. Given that 86% of the respondents have increased their privacy program budgets, Orson, talk a little bit about the strategic importance that these programs hold for automotive companies and how that investments translates, ideally into a competitive advantage and or a compliance benefit.
I think there's really a couple of key drivers for these and what's really driving investment. First and foremost, I think for a lot of companies continues to be this idea of compliance. So in other words, if you're out of compliance, there's pretty significant penalties that go along with that. I think a lot of people know for laws like the GDPR, for example, out of Europe, it's 4% of global gross revenue. Canada's similar to that with some recent privacy regulations they passed. So getting that right in terms of not only compliance, but really demonstrable compliance is really important. But I do think, though, and again, kind of going back to first principles here or first hypotheses and the way that we initially rolled this out was the idea that there's an opportunity for, it's maybe a little bit inaccurate to say first mover advantage, but there is really a first mover advantage for OEMs that really want to lean into this heavily.
And if you think about the scale that we're talking about here, there's over 130 countries that are enacting privacy laws. How are automotive manufacturers adjusting their operations to comply with that kind of diverse and growing regulatory landscape?
You need to have a strong governance program in place. That means control and process framework. You need to have clearly aligned roles and responsibilities that go beyond just the core privacy function, really across that first, second, third line of defense. And those need to be well coordinated and cohesive and measured and monitored as well.
I want to bring back the consumer perspective into this as well. And Caleb, maybe you can sort of take this one. And how can consumers then take a more active role in managing the privacy of their own vehicle data?
At the end of the day, there are things within their control that they can do to make the situation right size for them. And here's a couple ideas. One is to understand the settings that are available in the app or in the vehicle itself. By the settings, I mean the privacy settings. I think it's also important to take some time to understand the privacy policies that are available that explain those settings that they're going to find in those user interfaces, whether it's in the car or in the app. On the other side is, for the OEMs themselves, they need to do maybe a bit of a better job making those intuitive, which I know they're working on. We've seen that, and the study that we conducted confirms that. And finally, I think it's on the consumers to actually take advantage of those options. It's not just about reading the policies and reading the configuration settings, but actually then enabling the ones that are the right choices for those consumers.
Yep. Makes sense. And then Orson, maybe we'll round it out with you on the how to think about privacy challenges and strategies and how they differ in emerging automotive markets compared to more established markets.
Yeah, I think that the biggest difference in there's, on the emerging market side, some of the regulatory priorities that may be in place for more established markets aren't really there. They're really looking more at, how do we, gain market share as quickly as possible? How do we get speed to market as quickly as possible as well? So as a result, there's a disproportionate focus on speed to market as well as, potentially, doing it at the lowest cost to the consumer, which may actually exclude some of those, call it, what may be considered fringe things like data privacy So, in those cases, I think there's an opportunity for OEMs in those markets to educate consumers, focusing on that education process and, just where and how this is something that's valuable and beneficial to them. Conversely, in a more established market, you end up with a fairly, significant and established regulatory environment that's more focused on just kind of meeting the bar in a lot of cases and being able to demonstrate that. So, a lot of times compliance is a sort of a baseline, again, with more of a going beyond just the letter into the spirit of the law can be really helpful.
Well, and it doesn't make it any easier that the bar will continue to move, right?
Exactly.
So it's not static by any stretch. Awesome. Hey, thank you both for the insights. Thank you both for joining me today on this conversation. For more information, I want to be sure that folks can check out our KPMG white paper, Driving Trust, Consumer Privacy, and Automotive Manufacturers. Thank you.